So I think faith can be applied and should be applied by everyone. Theist, atheistic, doesn't matter. Both in a scientific sense and in a spiritual sense of seeking things out. Because as soon as we stop, as soon as we think we have everything figured out, as soon as we think we have all the answers, we become... What's going on, guys? So today I wanted to talk about something that has been a constant thread in most of my videos the past couple months, and I've talked about this concept's definition. I've talked about the etymological history of it, but I haven't talked about why I still think this concept is relevant and how I apply it in my life and how I think it can be applied in everyone's life, whether you're theist or atheist or whatever. And that concept is faith. And I've already talked about in those videos where I talk about the definition of it and the etymological history of it, I talk about really the concept or the contrast between faith and belief. And today I really wanted to talk about how I see faith and how I apply faith and how I think it's still relatable and still relevant today. And I say that, and so, some of you might be saying, oh, people don't think it's relevant. Well, when I first started studying philosophy and more in-depth theology and physics, metaphysics, all that stuff, that I kept hearing this thing over and over again, that faith was absurd. Faith is something that it doesn't, there's no reason for it. It's not logical. It's not reasonable. It's nothing. There's no point to applying the concept in any area of your life. And I was always kind of tilt my head at that because I thought, wait a minute, yes, there is. I mean, without anything spiritual, without anything religious, you can still apply the concept of faith and see results from it. I mean, this happens in science all the time. And so my definition, just FYI, of faith, and I kind of took this when I did the etymological study and theological study of what the definition and meaning of the word faith is, I came up with kind of my own definition that wrapped it all together for me when I saw all of it, and that is faith is the willingness to be intimate with the unknown. And I think faith can result in belief and vice versa. Again, I talk about all that. I'm not going to go into that in this video, but I talk about all that in the other videos that I did on faith and belief. So faith to me is that venture, is that adventure, is that journey into the unknown. And it looks like something. It doesn't just look like a philosophical thought process. It looks like an action. And obviously science has been doing this because science will figure out theories or equations or whatever you want to call it, and then they will do experiments on it to see if it works. And that is, I mean, whether you like it or not, that is the concept of faith, that you are being intimate with the unknown and you're going to seek out and find answers. And I think the same thing can be applied, and it means the same thing in a spiritual or religious sense, that it's like you have no idea what's there, what's out there. You just know of what you've heard and you've thought about it before philosophically, but you haven't really dove into it and said, I'm going to act on this, and that action is going to be a part of this journey into the unknown, and there's going to be this intimacy with the unknown, and I'm either going to come out with something that's solid and I can have belief in that, or just this knowing, or you come out at ground zero, or just right where you left off. And if you come out of it with nothing, I think that's okay. Like I don't think you should look at it as like I never should have gone on that journey of faith. I never should have looked into those things because it resulted in absolutely nothing. I don't think that at all. Because, and here's my reason for thinking, I think faith, whether that it's applied in science or anything spiritual, is still relevant, is still necessary, is because searching and seeking out those unknowns, how far along would we be as humanity, as a world, as a planet, as society, if nobody ventured into the unknown in some sort of way and came out with something? I mean, if nobody would have ventured into that unknown and taken, despite who told them it was impossible, they still said, I see it in my mind. There could be a possibility that this is real. There could be a possibility that this will make sense of everything. And I'm not just talking about things spiritual. I'm talking about scientific explanations as well. And so people dive into that unknown. People dive into the place where people are like, there's no point of even looking at it. There's no point of even going there. And they've come out of it with something that has completely changed our society, completely changed our world. But those are the people that go into that journey of faith and get answers out of it. I still think it's okay, and I still think it's necessary to go on that journey of faith. And even if you come back with what you think is nothing in return, you still come back from that with the knowledge of that journey, of what you did and what didn't happen, or what didn't work, or what didn't do this. And that's all necessary. So you never really got nothing out of the journey. You never really got nothing out of it. But again, going back to why I think faith is still, the concept of faith, I say still, but I think faith has always been as a concept, still relevant and still necessary in life, is because these questions, like say, does God exist? These type of questions that people don't know. We don't know if God, like there's no objective evidence that God exists or he doesn't exist. Obviously people are going to argue with me on that. Some Bible thumpers are going to leave comments and it's going to be great. Yeah, sure. Okay, whatever. But we don't objectively know. But I don't think that gives any sort of license to not dive into the unknown and search those things out if he is real. I think it's really important to search out those things that we don't know, to search out those answers that we don't know. Because the reality is, if nobody does that, if nobody takes that action, if nobody goes into that unknown, and I realize that whether you think about it like this or not, like, I mean, say you're an atheist, but you grew up in a very conservative Christian home. You journeyed out into the unknown. You know, that was a step of faith. That was the concept of faith, you doing that. Whether it was applied to something atheistic or theistic, that is still the concept of faith, journeying out into the unknown and taking action. You know, being intimate with that unknown, being intimate in that place where nobody's gone, where it's complete darkness, and yet you're wanting to pull something out of it. So this is why I say that the concept of faith can be applied to both spirituality and science. And I think this is necessary to seek out these unknowns, any way you look at it, to seek out these unknowns, because once we stop seeking out the unknowns, we as humanity lose something. I mean, it's almost like we stop growing. So without the concept of faith being applied in our lives as humanity, we stop growing, we stop searching, we stop seeking, we stop dreaming. We stop. And just to clarify, faith isn't without doubt. Faith isn't without skepticism. Faith isn't without these kind of taboos of Christianity that we're told is wrong. Faith isn't without all that. So I think faith can be applied and should be applied by everyone. Theist, atheistic, doesn't matter. Both in a scientific sense and in a spiritual sense of seeking things out. Because as soon as we stop, as soon as we think we have everything figured out, as soon as we think we have all the answers, we become prideful, we become arrogant, and we stop growing, we stop dreaming, and we just become this kind of, I don't even know what to call it. Like they're just this block that's put in humanity saying, I know what is solid, what is real, what is true, and you can't tell me I'm wrong, until somebody proves them wrong, and then they say no. And they just get stubborn, and it just wages war, and it's not good for anybody. So faith causes us to dream, faith causes us to grow, faith causes us to be humble, it causes us to seek things out, it causes us to communicate and grow with other people. Faith is not dead. Faith is not, it is, however, illogical and not reasonable at all. Faith is not those things, but it is still relevant. It's still needed. Without it, these things don't happen, and you are free to disagree with that. And if you do, I would love to know what you think. So let me know down in the comments your thoughts. If you think faith is a necessary concept that we still need and still adopt, or if you think, faith is dead, or, just let me know your thoughts on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So this is how I see faith is able to be applied in life. I haven't really talked about my application of it. I could make a video on that of how I personally apply faith in my life to seek out things spiritual. But let me know if you want that video. But that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on this whole thing. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Love to hear them, love to chat about it. And like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you misfits in the next one. Peace.